Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's President Droupadi Murmu hold talks with her Malawian counterpart, Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera. Both countries signed 4 MOUs on the occasion. Chief negotiator of Hamas confirms the death of group's leader Yahya Sinwar. US President Joe Biden says the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was a moment of justice and an opportunity to seek a path towards peace in Gaza.
I told the Prime Minister of Israel yesterday, let's also make this moment an opportunity to seek a path to peace, a better future in Gaza without Hamas.
US President Joe Biden is in Berlin to discuss the Russia-Ukraine conflict with key European partners. Biden was greeted with military honors as he began with his visit on Friday. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier accorded a grand welcome to the US President. Both leaders discussed support for Ukraine and the de-escalation of the conflict in West Asia. Biden thanked Germany for its support to Ukraine. The United States and Germany are Ukraine's top military and financial backers.
I also want to recognize Germany's decision to spend 2% of your gross domestic product on defense. Please keep it up because it matters. Our alliance with Germany extends far beyond Ukraine and Europe. It's global.
US President Joe Biden received Germany's highest Order of Merit in a ceremony. The German president awarded the highest Order of Merit to Biden for his services to transatlantic ties. Thanking his counterpart, Joe Biden said he was overwhelmed and honored to receive the award. US President Joe Biden was welcomed by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz at the German Chancellery earlier. Biden called on Ukraine's allies to maintain their resolve and support Kiev going into a tough winter. US President Joe Biden has said that the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is a moment of justice and an opportunity to seek a path to peace in Gaza. He said he told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to also make this moment an opportunity to seek a path to peace, a better future in Gaza without Hamas.
The death of the leader of Hamas represents a moment of justice. He had the blood of Americans and Israelis, Palestinians and Germans and so many others on his hands. I told the Prime Minister of Israel yesterday, let's also make this moment an opportunity to seek a path to peace, a better future in Gaza without Hamas.
Deputy Gaza Hamas chief Khalil Al-Hayya has confirmed that Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar was killed in Israeli combat. Sinwar's death, which follows Israeli assassinations of other Hamas leaders and commanders, will deal a huge blow to the Islamist group, which has faced relentless airstrikes since it attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. It also dragged about 250 people back to Gaza, creating a hostage crisis for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government, which has vowed to eliminate Hamas. NATO defense ministers gathered in Brussels for the second day of the summit on Friday. The meeting was held under the new NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. The leaders discussed continuing military aid to Ukraine. After chairing his first NATO defense ministers meeting, NATO chief Mark Rutte condemned Putin's increasingly irresponsible rhetoric.
Russia remains the most significant and direct threat to the security of the Allies. And Putin is resorting to increasingly irresponsible rhetoric. Moscow may be loud, but NATO is strong.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and NATO Chief Mark Rutte presented a unified front in Brussels that followed Kiev's pitch for victory to EU leaders and NATO defense ministers. Mark Rutte said NATO members will not lose their shared will to support Ukraine, and Russian President Vladimir Putin would be wrong to think otherwise. Zelensky reminded his allies that some commitments made at the NATO summit in July were still waiting to be fulfilled.
Strengthening of Ukraine, it's not only depending on the weapon, this kind or that kind, it's depending on the will. If our partners will not lose their unity, we will not lose.
On to Africa now. India's President Droupadi Murmu is in Malawi as part of a 3 African nation visit. The President held bilateral meeting with her Malawi counterpart Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera with a focus on issues to improve trade and economic activities between the two countries. Four MOUs have been signed between India and Malawi following bilateral and delegation level talks in the following sectors, and these are arts and culture cooperation, cooperation in sports, on youth matters and on pharmaceutical cooperation. Earlier in the day, the President of India visited the National War Memorial of Malawi and laid a wreath there. The war memorial was built in honor of soldiers and civilians who lost their lives in the First and Second World Wars. The President also visited the Kamuzu Mausoleum, the resting place of the first President, founder and father of the Malawi nation, Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Russia from 22nd and 23rd of this month to attend the 16th BRICS summit to be held in Kazan. The summit, themed Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security, will provide an important platform for leaders to discuss key global issues. The summit will offer a valuable opportunity to assess the progress of initiatives launched by BRICS and to identify potential areas for future collaboration. During his visit, the Prime Minister of India is also expected to hold bilateral meetings with his counterparts from BRICS member countries. Ahead of the BRICS summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the fast growth of the developed nations of BRICS group will generate most of the global economic growth in the coming years.
BRICS is already playing a remarkable role in today's global economy, but obviously this role will also be increasing tomorrow. The countries in our association are essentially the drivers of global economic growth. In the foreseeable future, BRICS will generate the main increase in the global GDP.
The 5th edition of Riyad season is underway in the Saudi Arabian capital since 12th of October. Events under it are being organized all across Riyadh. Suwaidi Park in Riyadh is one such venue that takes you on a journey around the world through their cultures, music, dances, traditional foods and other attractions. DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya reports from Riyadh.
A riveting performance by an Indian dance troupe enthralling visitors at Suwaidi Park in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. Visitors can be seen enjoying Bollywood numbers and Indian folk dances and watching Indian singing and dancing talent perform. Indian cuisine and culinary delights such as this stall of Indian Hyderabadi cuisine are drawing in visitors too. Under Riyadh season 2024, the spotlight is on India at the Suwaidi Park for a little over a week this October. Riyadh season was introduced in 2019 by Saudi authorities in support of Saudi Vision 2030. Since then, under its umbrella, A series of entertainment, cultural and sporting events are held in Riyadh for 5 months, from October to March every year. Indian Ambassador to Riyadh, Dr. Suhail Khan, took a tour of the park and witnessed the events firsthand.
This is a very important initiative which strengthens the bonds between the Indian communities, the other expatriate communities in the kingdom, and the Saudi society. We welcome this initiative. We are very excited to see a huge crowd of our Indian community and the Saudi friends come here and enjoy the Indian culture.
Members of the Indian diaspora in Saudi Arabia were among the visitors at the park.
We have a lot of population of Indians here, and it's really encouraging that they are also recognizing our culture and trying to spread it to the Saudi people as well.
Very happy in this society. I feel very secure, and our cultural also they are giving so much recognition to our cultural activities.
Other than India, Suwaidi Park has a sprinkling of cuisines, cultures, concerts and entertainment events from other countries too, such as the Philippines, Indonesia, Pakistan, Yemen, Sudan, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Bangladesh and Egypt. All in all, Suwaidi Park has become a hub of global entertainment and cross-cultural connect between Saudi nationals and expatriate communities.
For 9 days in October this year, the flavor of Riyadh season at Suwaidi Park in southern Riyadh is India. The idea is to showcase the intermingling and bonhomie between the Indian and Saudi society and bring the people of both the countries closer. With cameraman Pramod Negi, this is Munmun Bhattacharya from Riyadh for DD India.
You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Authorities in Pakistan shut schools, colleges and universities in Punjab province after anger spread over an alleged on-campus rape. North Korea's Kim Jong-un calls South Korea a foreign hostile country. And Obama is set to hit the campaign trail with Kamala Harris for the first time next week.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. In Pakistan, authorities have ordered closure of all educational institutes for Friday as students staged protests against alleged on-campus rape of a student in Lahore. The protests have spread to campuses across Lahore as well as the city of Rawalpindi. The demonstrators have smashed windows, burned school buses at campuses in Lahore. Students have also clashed with police at many of the demonstrations. To control the violent clashes, Pakistani police fired tear gas on protesters. The Provincial Interior Department has also banned gatherings on Friday and Saturday. Meanwhile, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI party is holding countrywide protest on Friday against the proposed constitutional amendment package. PTI also demanded the immediate restoration of Imran Khan's basic rights and access to his family. And next news from the US. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump made digs at his opponent Democrat Kamala Harris and embattled New York Mayor Eric Adams while touching upon his own legal troubles in a speech at a charity gala. The annual Al Smith dinner, which benefits Catholic charities, is a New York bipartisan tradition that attracts the city's elite and extends back almost 80 years. In the past, it has been known for being an evening when candidates could gently mock themselves and their opponents. Harris was the first major party presidential candidate since Democrat Walter Mondale in 1984 to skip the event. Instead, the vice president campaigned in Wisconsin, a crucial battleground state. Trump spoke against Harris's no-show and noted that Mondale was trounced by Republican Ronald Reagan in the 1984 presidential contest.
Always it's a rule. You got to go to the dinner. You got to do it. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen to you from up there. You can't do what I just saw on that screen. But my opponent feels like she does not have to be here, which is deeply disrespectful to the event and in particular to our great Catholic community. Very disrespectful.
Meanwhile, during a campaign event in La Crosse in Wisconsin on Thursday, U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris lambasted former President Donald Trump for calling January 6th, when his supporters stormed the Capitol Hill to try to overturn his 2020 defeat, a day of love.
What did Donald Trump say last night about January 6th? He called it a, quote, a day of love. But it points out something that everyone here knows. The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting. Exhausted with his gaslighting. Enough! We are ready to turn the page!
Further, Harris said that the U.S. election is going to be a tight race until the very end. She was speaking at a rally in Green Bay in Wisconsin.
So, Green Bay, we have 19 days until Election Day. 19 days. So we are entering the home stretch. And this is going to be a tight race until the very end. Look, we are the underdog, and that's why we are, and I am campaigning to earn every single vote, because I intend to be a president for all Americans.
Early voting was underway in the presidential battleground of North Carolina just weeks after Hurricane Helene left some residents still without power, running water and phone service. North Carolina could be crucial in determining a winner in the U.S. presidential race, as its voting preferences could swing either way. Supporters of both Harris and Trump were vocal as Hurricane Helene, which killed more than 200 people across 6 states, has sparked questions on how it might impact voter turnout. Polls show a very tight race with a handful of swing states likely to determine the winner, as Trump and Harris are in a dead heat in North Carolina. A survey showed Trump with 48% support in state polls as compared to Harris, who has got a 47.5% support. So with just over 2 weeks left for the election, how is the last sprint of Kamala Harris and Trump coming along? Let's hear it from our correspondent, Amritpal Singh.
Oh, it's reached a feverish pitch. The campaigning here, both political leaders, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, are trading barbs at each other. Kamala saying people are exhausted with Donald Trump's gaslighting, making personal attacks. He saying, using the words that he uses for Kamala Harris, left-leaning lunatic, etc. So using these kind of harsh words. Kamala Harris was in Wisconsin campaigning, while Donald Trump was at an event in New York. So clearly, both sides talking about their favorite topics. Kamala Harris dishing out the blame on Donald Trump for polarizing the society, for vilifying migrants, but saying that the illegal migrant crisis needs to be fixed, the system needs to be fixed. also in a Fox interview, distancing herself a bit from Joe Biden. She clearly doesn't want to carry the anti-incumbency baggage of Joe Biden's unpopular presidency along with her, saying that it will not be a continuation. She trying to also woo voters in the Republican voters, especially women who may have Republican leanings, because she herself is a woman candidate. While Donald Trump is, campaigning hard, especially in the swing states. Actually, both leaders are campaigning in swing states. North Carolina began early voting, huge turnout, 200,000 turnout on the first day in the first few hours. So clearly, the swing states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona will be very significant in determining the outcome of this presidential election. And as Kamala Harris herself conceded in Wisconsin, the race looks pretty tight.
Thank you, Amrit. Amritpal Singh reporting from the US. South Korea's news agency has said that North Korea has shipped 1,500 special forces troops to Russia to support it in its conflict with Ukraine. Citing South Korea's spy agency, the Yonhap quoted that North Korea has decided to send 4 brigades of 12,000 soldiers, including special forces. Meanwhile, tensions on the Korean peninsula reached a new high after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un declared South Korea a hostile state. This follows a constitutional amendment that formally drops the goal of reunifying the two Koreas. Speaking at the Second Corps headquarters, Kim emphasized the growing threat from the South Korea-US alliance and their enhanced military maneuvers, calling for a stronger North Korean nuclear deterrent. North Korea has blasted road and rail links with the South, signaling not just the physical severing of ties, but what Kim calls the end of the evil relationship with Seoul. He declared that this marks the complete removal of any hope for reunification, pushing forward a two-state system. And on to Europe now. Air travel is one of the biggest polluters the world is dealing with. But despite a globally growing willingness to rein in climate change, the number of planes in the sky are just going up. A solution to the problem might be electrically powered planes like the ones developed by Germany's Lilium. The company, however, is facing an uncertain future. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now. Lars, what's the latest news from Lilium?
Thanks for having me. So, a short answer, Lilium needs money. Developing and building these electrically powered personal air vehicles, that is what they're actually called, because for now we're talking about small planes with just a handful of seats. Developing and building those is an expensive undertaking, and the company had asked the German government for loan guarantees, 100 million euros in total. Now, the state government of Bavaria, that is the company's home state, had signaled that it would extend such guarantees at least for 50 million euros, so half the amount, if the federal government would match that. But just yesterday, news broke now that Berlin wasn't willing to do so. It appears the Green Party says it can't vote for such financial help because of the obvious risk that the company could fail and then taxpayers would be on the hook.
Lars, also tell us what's happening now that Lilium has been left to its own devices.
Well, other than an insolvency, the company could simply leave Germany. That's an option that has actually been discussed. It's true, after all, that Germany apparently doesn't support its businesses to the tune that other governments are. Volocopter was another German company working on air taxis. Now, those look more like helicopters, and they were also battery-powered. That company had asked the government for loan guarantees to keep a business going. It didn't get them, and it's only thanks to some private investors that jumped in that the company is still surviving. Whereas other companies in that particular field are getting support from their governments. There's Joby Aviation in the US, and they just signed a $131 million contract with the Pentagon, while also accepting some rumored $600 million in subsidies for a new plant. And there's Eve Air Mobility. They're also working on air taxis, and they're majority owned by Brazil's Embraer. Now, they got 88 million from the Brazilian Development Bank. So other governments aren't so shy about supporting startups, even though there's always some risk when you're developing technologies for the future.
The Cricket Association of Nepal has appointed Pubudu Dasanaike as the mentor for the Nepali team participating in the ICC World Cricket League 2, which will be held in the US. The triangular series will take place from October 25th to November 4th, featuring the host nation Nepal and Scotland. Nepal's schedule includes its first match against the USA on October 27th, followed by a match against Scotland on October 29th and a rematch against the USA on November 2nd. The final match will be held against Scotland on November the 4th. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles. And of course, for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.